I call to order the regular meeting of the Mount Pleasant City Commission, Monday, February 23rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Mount Pleasant City Commission recognizes the Anishinaabe, whose ancestral lands the city stands upon today. We acknowledge the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe and recognize that the three bands of Ojibwe, Saginaw, Black River, and Swan Creek, have resided on this land for over 200 years. Our acknowledgement of the full history of the tribe and our commitment to be good stewards of these ancestral lands is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those ancestors who came before us. We give thanks to the generous care with which the Anishinaabe and those members of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe of Michigan have given and continue to give to this land and our community. Clerk Schmelzer, please take the roll.
Commissioner Alsager?
Here.
Commissioner Demarath?
Here.
Commissioner Perschebacker?
Here.
Commissioner Rollins?
Here.
Commissioner Skalitsky?
Here.
Vice Mayor Eke?
Here.
Mayor Wingard?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. We have no proclamations or presentations this evening. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda that members of the commission would like to propose? Not seeing any. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented. Second.
I think I heard Commissioner Skalitsky on that one, so I'll go. Vice Mayor Eke had made the motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Skalitsky had seconded. All those in favor of approving the agenda this evening, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. All right. At this time, we'll move into public input on agenda items. If you are a member of the public and would like to comment on an item that is on the agenda at this time, please step up to the microphone. You'll be given 5 minutes. We ask that you state your name, address, and the item you are commenting on for the record. If you are on Zoom, please use the raised hand features. Are there any raised hands on Zoom? On Zoom, yeah. If you're interested, please make a queue over there for the speaking. Okay. Yep.
Hello, my name is Joseph Carrion. I live on 109 North Arm Street. I want to talk about the agenda item 2, the petition in strong support of the private Christian school. I've said it before, I'm an atheist, but I am in strong support of a Christian school. And for that reason is because of the amount of volunteer I do in this town. I can tell you a lot of Sacred Heart children by name because of how much volunteering those kids do. Overall, I think a religious school is a net positive for our community. It always has been. I will always see it like that. If I was back in Houston, I have a lot of things to say about like mega churches, but this isn't that situation. I think you should really, really think about the net positives of what a religious school can bring this community, because it really already does a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's my first time here. I have no idea how this is conducted. But as I'm reading through the agenda, it looks like my thing is not related to the 2 agenda items, but it might be something that goes in maybe public comment on non-agenda later. So I'll come back later.
Not a problem. Thank you. Were there any emails received?
Not related to agenda.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience? Okay. At this time, I'm going to close public input on agenda items. And we'll move into receipt of petitions and communications. Manager DeSense, if you would.
Receipt of petitions and communications this evening includes a letter from residents regarding allowable height of fences in industrial zoning districts and petition letters from residents in strong support of a new private Christian school in Mount Pleasant.
Okay, thank you, Manager DeSense. And then we'll move into Vice Mayor, if you had a question? Sure, you.
Manager Dissents,
Mhm.
could you please, the petition letters from residents in support of the new private Christian school? Okay, I did ask about the percentages or the numbers because the information was, that was sent to us, just had everybody together. So could you, for public record, what number of petitioners live in Mount Pleasant and what number of petitioners don't reside in Mount Pleasant? Please.
Yeah, according to the clerk's department, they had looked at 497 petitions received. 145 were residents of the city of Mount Pleasant, while 352 were non-residents.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding our petitions and communications? All right. Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Manager. At this time, we'll move into consent items. Manager DeSense, if you would.
Consent items this evening includes approval of the minutes from the regular meeting held February 9, 2026. Consider setting a special meeting for discussion on goals and objectives for Monday, April 6th at 6 p.m. at Department of Public Safety. Consider approval of the purchase of one 2026 Chevrolet Tahoe police pursuit vehicle from Berger Chevrolet for $55,574. Funds for the purchase are allocated in the 2026 police budget. Consider approval of the purchase of one Chevrolet 2500 Silverado from Berger Chevrolet, including all necessary upfittings, in an amount not to exceed $85,000. Funds for this purchase are allocated in the 2026 Fire Department budget. Consider approval of updates to the internal process for handling proclamation requests, including the implementation of a standard submission method for members of the public. Consider awarding the contract for the 2026 Nelson Park Mill and Thin Overlay project to TBD Construction for $64,626. Funds are available in the 2026 Parks Department operating budget. Consider approval of an amendment to the professional engineering services agreement with Fleece and Vanderbrink for $29,250 and authorize the city manager to sign the amendment. Consider approval of the purchase of RMS data conversion service from Central Square in the amount of $105,000 and authorize acceptance of the reimbursement in the amount of $52,500 from Central Michigan University and approve the reallocation of $52,500 within the 2026 Police Department budget to fund the city's portion of the cost and approval of payrolls and warrants.
Thank you, Manager DeSense. Are there any items members of the commission would like removed from the consent agenda at this time?
I do have a question regarding number 10. Is TBD a union contractor?
Director Moore, do we know if TBD is a union contractor?
I saw that there was a bid from Central Asphalt as well that was pretty close to the same amount as what TBD has bid on the project as well. Is that correct? Was there a reason why we preferred TBD over Central Asphalt considering it's a local contractor?
Yeah, TBD, they did submit references and we checked all of those references and those came back very positive. And to keep bids competitive, we like to go with the, low bid when there's no reason not to, I suppose.
I'm curious if there's consideration from the commission to discuss priorities on local contractors.
I'd say if we're going to open it up to discussion on that item, we would want to move it from the consent agenda into regular agenda.
Make a motion.
Second that.
Appreciated. Motions aren't necessary to remove the consent agenda. So you can just indicate that you'll want to move that into the regular agenda.
Thank you for clarification.
Yep, no worries on that. So number 8, we'd want to move into new business then. We can move that into, we'll do that under number 13. So we'll do number 13 first and then number 8. Don't ask me why I put them out of numerical order. I just started writing and that's how it happened. So I apologize there. Any other questions or items that members of the commission would like to address concerning the consent agenda?
Number 9. So reading through the memo from dissent, I was a little confused by it because it seems like it is for the redesign, but then I was confused about the snow blower wheel loader attachment and how that fit in. I guess maybe some clarification on that, and if they're the same or like you're talking about 2 different things.
My apologies. What was the question about?
Okay, so we're talking about the trail design, and it talks about, hold on, the original agreement includes final design costs. However, due to the changes required, let me find where I was. I didn't write great notes. So I guess for me, is this extra for the redesign, or is this talking about the snow blower and the wheel loader?
No, so that is actually for extra for the redesign. So
Okay,
we had verbals from property owners for easements, and they backed out of those easement agreements, and so we had to redesign that section of the trail. And so therefore, that's what that additional cost is for.
for the redesign?
Yeah, the engineered drawings and redesign of the trail.
Okay, so it's for the redesign of it, but then how does the snow blower wheel loader, that aspect of it says for the purpose of the contract amendment, in addition to the specifications required to add the wheel loader, I guess,
So I don't know unless it's,
right here. The development of specifications required. Sorry,
Contract amendments to add. Add a wheel loader to the existing bid documents of the snow blower.
was it an error?
So it would be on page.
It was an error
571.
it was an error on the uploading of it.
Okay, page 571 on the.
Yep.
Okay.
Under reasons, okay.
Yeah, so the bottom part was an error on the,
So the purpose of the
Upload.
contract amendment, that part,
yes,
an error, okay.
Yep.
So it's not about,
correct.
It's about
It
the-
is only about the trail. There is nothing to do
the
with,
snow.
yes.
Okay,
Yep,
got it, okay, I was confused by that, didn't,
totally understand that,
connection,
and I
okay.
apologize. That's definitely
Okay.
an error
all right, then that clarifies.
on the
my
memo
question then.
itself. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions concerning items on the consent agenda? Not seeing any hands or anyone's coming forward. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as modified. Second.
Okay, I have a motion by the Vice Mayor Eke to approve the consent agenda as modified, seconded by Commissioner Rollins. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as modified, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay, that brings us to our public hearings for the evening. This evening, we have one public hearing, and that is a public hearing on resolution number 5 for special assessment district number 1-26 for the principal shopping district. Consider adoption on the same. Manager DeSense, if you would give us some background.
Yeah, so the city uses a special assessment for maintenance, beautification, snow removal, and utilities for amenities that serve the downtown. The Principal Shopping District Board has recommended the renewal of this special assessment for 2026 and 2027. The City Commission has asked to hold a public hearing prior to final authorization of the special assessment. After the public hearing, the City Commission is asked to approve the attached resolution, which will approve the roll and set the repayment terms to finalize the special assessment for Special Assessment District Number 126.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing. If you are on Zoom, please use the raised hand feature. And if you are in the audience, please step up to the microphone. You'll be given 5 minutes to speak. Are there any emails received on this topic?
Mayor, if I may, on the dais, you will find a letter that came in just about a couple of hours ago from a business owner in the downtown.
Perfect. Thank you. Any audience members to speak on this topic? Any other raised hands before we close this public hearing? Yep, and acknowledging the receipt of petition, listed 10 downtown business owners in opposition to the special assessment. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and turn it to members of the commission. Is there a motion or discussion that would like to come forward?
Discussion.
Discussion? Vice Mayor, or members of the commission, are there any questions?
I have Director dissents. Sorry, Manager dissents, Director L'Oreal, Manager dissents. I'm getting my titles mixed up. So, Manager dissents, I noticed that, there is a petition here, regarding this special assessment. We've had this special assessment in the past. We're just renewing what we have had in the past.
That's correct. Yes, this special assessment, as Director Biscorner had pointed out, goes back to the mid-2000s.
Okay. Does the TIFA, the funds collected through TIFA cover what the special assessment might cover?
No, the funds that we, in our TIFA plan, those funds have been dedicated towards a large infrastructure project in the downtown, as well as some incentives for businesses in the downtown. It does not cover things like maintenance and those kind of things.
Okay. Well, the reason why I asked that question is because the very first objection talks about TIFA. I want to make sure that there is clarity between clarity on what TIFA covers and what this special assessment would cover. Okay, so next question. Without this special assessment, where would funding for the items that might be covered or would be covered, ordinarily covered by the special assessment, be retrieved? Where would you get the funding?
They would have to come from the general fund.
Okay. Okay. And as you understand it, if that were to happen, how would that impact the general fund? What might be the eventual effect?
Yeah, to the tune of $100,000 and change per year. As of right now, 2026 general fund is projected to hit a deficit. A lot of that planned with significant capital improvements that we're doing in 2026. But in 2027, my current projections show us at a continued deficit, so it would just steepen that deficit.
Okay. Okay. All right. And are there grants to cover the items that might be covered for the special assessment, bearing in mind that we may or we may not get those grants?
Yeah, to our knowledge, no. Ongoing operations, maintenance, those kind of things are typically not covered by grant programs.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Other members of the commission with questions or comments on this topic?
Have there ever been any petitions received to the city before regarding this?
Certainly not my time of doing this. And I think, I could certainly do further research, but certainly not my time of being here as city manager. We have not.
So this is assessment we've had for roughly 20 years since the first time that the issue has been raised.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sure. I can't recall any prior.
Well, just given the fact that the TIFA money is geared towards other things, I see that there's a need for this assessment.
Gotcha. I would agree with with Commissioner Alsager on that. I think potentially in the future, we could, like, there's room for discussion in the future. I'd want at the very least, the TIFA board to weigh in on it as they are working on developing the downtown, like a downtown development plan based off of our prior recommendations for largely infrastructure purposes. But without having prior discussion on that or seeing seeing the finalized plan for with the funding that we have in place, I wouldn't want to go without this special assessment myself. Is there anyone who would be interested in doing a motion on this evening?
A lot of
Make a
people,
motion to approve resolution 5 as presented for the principal shopping district special assessment.
I'll second that.
Okay, it was motion made by Commissioner Sklitsky to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Alsager. All those in favor of approving the resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay, that brings us into our new business for the evening, and we're going to start with item number 13. Consider approval of resolution establishing income and asset levels for poverty exemptions to 2026 property tax assessments. Manager Sense, if you want to give us a bit of background.
At the February 9th, 2026 City Commission meeting, action was taken to approve the resolution which establishes the poverty guidelines which must be met for a property owner to claim a poverty exemption from property tax assessment. However, when asked a question, admittedly, I had misspoken, so I just want to bring this back to the City Commission. Apologize, but just to make sure that the City Commission has the opportunity to take the action that it sees fit. So the guidelines for poverty exemption are provided by the federal government. A local municipality can adopt guidelines that are higher than the provided threshold, but not guidelines that are lower. The attached resolution allows the city to establish guidelines as it sees fit. In your packet, you'll find a copy of the resolution that we had passed, but we took the numbers out so that way if the City Commission wishes to debate and put numbers into those thresholds, it's certainly welcome to do so. Just a few things that I pointed out in my report that I just want to make sure that the City Commission is aware of. I'd contacted the county treasurer who let me know in 2025 2 properties located within the city of Mount Pleasant went through tax foreclosure auction that year. Isabella County offers a deferment program in which owners can attend a show cause hearing to explain the circumstances of why they're late in paying taxes, and they can request more time to adjust their tax bill, which can be granted. The county also provides information from other agencies that can assist homeowners, such as the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Also, they wanted me to point out that disabled veterans are granted an exemption under another program, which helps to alleviate that particular vulnerable population. Lastly, consideration of the impact on exempting more property owners from taxes can have an impact on general fund revenues. While one request for a poverty exemption was granted in 2025, increasing the guidelines could mean that more homeowners are exempt and taxes would not be collected. I tried to find a breakdown so we could get an idea. Federal poverty guidelines right now say about 15,000 is what they consider poverty level. I couldn't find a really great source for something that inches finishes that up, where I could see how many individuals in the city of Mount Pleasant meet that or are at 16 or 18,000 or anything like that. So I just couldn't get some good data on that. City Commission has several options to consider. One would be to do nothing. This would allow the previous adopted poverty guidelines to stand, and a copy of that has been included in your packet for reference. We can also amend the guidelines. The resolution with the blank figures has been added to your packet. You can determine what levels you wish to adopt at the, you could determine what levels you wish to adopt for the poverty exemption, and then keep in mind that it just cannot be less than the previously adopted federal guidelines. And then lastly, if the City Commission is looking for any more information, you can certainly direct us, the staff, to try to grab some more information for you. We need a decision to be available prior to the March Board of Review, which begins on March 11th.
Let's see. We would have a meeting on March 9th prior to that, if there was a request for more information. But bringing it back to members of the commission for discussion on the topic, I think Commissioner Sklitsky, you had initially started this conversation, prompted this conversation. If you had wanted to start us off at all.
Yeah, if we take a look at the federal poverty guidelines, a single family 15,000, family 2, 21,000, 26,000 for 3. You know, if we break this out into, you know, roughly $1,500, we'll say, in taxes, you know, that leaves a family of 3 to $2,400, $2,500 or $25,000 roughly to make their mortgage, their car payments, you know, premiums, gas, food. It leaves them a really hard position to have much of a quality of life. So I think that if there's an option for us to be able to raise these levels slightly, that we should definitely entertain it. I feel like if there has been foreclosures and homes going to auction in the last year, and there's only one application for property tax exemptions for poverty levels, it might be a program that we need to educate residents further on. But yeah.
Commissioner Perschbacher.
First, I'd like to address the 2 foreclosures that happened. Those were houses that were completely abandoned by the owners. They just left. And they went into foreclosure after 3 years of non-payment. And I do believe that the city, because of the way those houses were, the disrepair, we paid for them to be demolished, and then the land was auctioned. When you're talking about property taxes, usually property taxes is something that you pay within your mortgage. It's part of the escrow. So if you have property taxes, you most likely don't have a mortgage at that time because you've already paid your mortgage off. Because most banks don't like to rely on the people they've loaned money to actually pay their property taxes and insurance. So they put it in an escrow, which makes sense because then it's just a percentage of your payment each month that goes into escrow so that the bank has control over making sure that you don't get foreclosed on due to the county. There are some exceptions to that, but most of them are that way. I think that if we've only had 2 foreclosures since I've been on the commission that I know of. And we've only so far have had 1 person that has gone to try to get some help with this. We do have programs in the county that works with individuals. Nobody wants to put anybody out. And certainly the county doesn't either. So I think that leaving it at the federal level is reasonable because that's what the federal government has set it at. If we go above that, we've not seen any need for it to be above that. We've not seen an influx of individuals losing their homes. I mean, if there were 5, 6 foreclosures every year in the city, yes, I would be looking at raising that level, but we have not seen evidence of that.
Commissioner Al Sager.
I agree with Commissioner Perschbacher on that assessment.
Other members of the commission would like to, Commissioner Rollins.
Well, we haven't seen evidence of that yet. I think we should be a bit more proactive given the current state of the economy and the uncertainty of how the economy is going to pan out over the next 3 years. We already go a bit above the poverty guidelines for reduced school lunches and the like. We should try to explore something of that similar concept instead of waiting until there are people that will be unable to meet those property taxes. Yeah, it goes into escrow along with homeowners insurance, which for everybody has been going up. So I'm thinking that this is something that we should discuss and explore further before it gets to the point where we start having residents losing their homes due to failure to pay property tax or being unable to pay it.
I just have
Commissioner
a question.
Demarest.
Is this something that's assessed yearly?
Yeah,
Okay.
establish it yearly. My, before we end discussion on that, my thoughts kind of like going into it. I was glad to hear the numbers of foreclosures that we were dealing with were so low, 2 foreclosures. And as Commissioner Perschbacher pointed out, they were homes that had been abandoned, which is good. That is good information. This is something that we're required to put into place by state law, by the state of Michigan. Finding out though, kind of we're required to do it. If we make changes, what is our intent behind doing so? Is our intent behind doing so staving off foreclosures, which there hasn't been a whole rush of, or is it simply to just provide relief? Like again, are we considering providing relief to members of the community who could then use those funds to spend elsewhere? Members of, like, if your mortgage payment goes down, then suddenly you have more money to take care of some other aspect of your life, some other pressing need. So the majority of the individuals, the large majority of individuals in the community are making their tax payments, which we are grateful for, and that, like, in people contributing to the community in that way. But it's finding out, is there like, are we attempting to provide relief in doing so, allowing them access to use their funds in a more flexible way? Putting that back to the commission, Vice Mayor Eka.
Okay. Manager Dissents, I would appreciate it if you just reminded us again of the timeline within which we have to make this decision.
Yeah, so the policy needs to be in effect prior to the Board of Review, which starts on March 11th.
Okay, so we have only one meeting. That doesn't give us enough time to really look at alternatives and make decisions. I suspect that this topic is one that might require a little bit more than one meeting conversation. And since we have a time-bound item, we are limited. My proposal would be to hold the assessment at the current level, and that would give us, since this is an annual decision, then it gives us time to make decision moving forward, because we don't have the time. If we had a month or two, I'd say, let's investigate. You know me. but we don't have the time right now. One meeting, that's not enough time, at least not for me. So there is an urgency in terms of, for us, in terms of being compliant, or at least, making sure that we do what we're supposed to do. And so that's why I'm proposing an alternative, position, which is to hold it as it is right now. Again, because we're governed by federal guidelines. And then moving forward, we look into what the other possibilities might be.
So I've spoken to some of the members of our the Housing Commission, and I've looked at what has been passed for budgets for other programs like DHHS that would provide some relief and some assistance to residents if they were on hard times. The money's not there like it has been in the past. A lot of these programs are underfunded, and the kitty is not as big as what it has been. Yes, I did misspoke about escrows and how taxes work through a mortgage. Forgive me for that. But, even if we do have members of our community that are getting by with, $27,000 a year with a family of three, I think if we increase that just a slight amount, I don't think we're going to miss that much money. There's not that many people that can afford a home and a mortgage on $27,000 a year. And if we can provide them a little bit of relief and improve their quality of life and help them to free up some funds to maybe improve in their home, to fix the leaky faucet, to put new floors down, it's something that it improves the quality of life for our most vulnerable residents in Mount Pleasant.
Manager Sense, are you aware, and again, not as Vice Mayor Ake has pointed out, not terribly great amount of time to dig in, research this. There's a lot of different topics we're working on right now. But just from your experience, are you aware of other communities who may have different standards sets beyond this?
It's interesting that you mentioned this, and I think there's a lot of other communities with some of the same mindset that has been expressed here this evening. Typically, communities just adopt them at the federal levels and continue moving on. But I think obviously, given some of the concerns about housing and affordability out there, communities are taking another look at these sort of things. So I've seen where other communities had moved it, small incremental amounts. And I think I've seen that, I think there's a community out towards the Kalamazoo area. Bay City, I think, was also currently debating their program as well, but I haven't seen a ton of it, but that is what I'm familiar of.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, it's a topic of conversation amongst municipalities right now. We're not alone in that fact. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Eke.
For for the sake of, I'm responding to my colleague, Commissioner Skelitsky. Ordinarily I would say yes, I agree with you that we need to look at this. The conundrum for us right now is we don't have data to work with this, So how much, if we are going to make an adjustment, what are we proposing? Are we talking about 2,000? Are we talking about 5? Are we talking about 10? I think that we need a little bit of data to at least make some informed decision, and that's where I am stuck. I am stuck because I work with information, and just simply saying to me, do this when I don't have data to work with, doesn't help me at all. I don't know about the rest of my colleagues, but it's not helping me. I can't make that decision when I don't know what percentage we're talking about in terms of population that might be affected within our community. I don't know, you haven't made a recommendation in terms of what percentage or how much, we could address, we could alter here. I think, and then we're dealing with a time factor, which is we've got to make this decision, within a short frame of time. I don't know. I just, I really do think that if we're being responsible, I want to be responsible. I want to be, I want us to be fiscally responsible while paying attention to the needs of, vulnerable populations in our community. I think that is the right thing to do. But I also want us to do that in such a way that we don't unwittingly cause harm, financial harm, or maybe, come back a year later and go, or a few months later and say to ourselves, whoops, we probably should have done this differently. All I'm asking is that at the moment, we do have a guide, we have guideline that informs what we're doing. And it is one that we have been using in the past, and other communities also using this guideline. Can we hold it as it is right now? And then that would give us time to address this issue in a very comprehensive manner and then make an informed decision that benefits everybody. That's my position, but the rest of the commissioners can make up their minds.
The way that I look at things is a family of making $26,000 a year, family of three. What kind of home could they afford at $26,000 a year? The property value probably isn't all that high. If the property value isn't all that high, we're probably not collecting all that much in taxes in them. Luckily, we're making a decision of whether we make the decision tonight or we push it off a couple of weeks. We're not making a decision of whether we're paying to keep heat or if we're going to be late on the mortgage this month. It's not that type of decision that we're facing tonight. Even if we did adjust at something like 10%, a family of seven, $48,000 is the poverty level. If we raise that to $53,000 a year, and they can get by with a family of seven, I think that we need to look at bringing them on board into the finance department for the city. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to do that kind of math. I don't know. I don't care how many bologna sandwiches I ate. It's not going to happen. Even an adjustment of a 10% would be nominal to the city, I believe, and it could mean mountains and be life-changing for some of our members of our community.
Commissioner Demery.
I agree with that. I have a family. It's getting harder. Groceries cost more. They still have to eat. And, I'm not in a position where this assistance would be available to me, but I can imagine that if I needed it, this would be a tremendous help. And I think if we can set up parameters that can help people in the future, that's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be waiting until it's a problem later. We should try to prevent it.
Commissioner Perschbacher.
Considering about 50% of our housing stock is rental units, I'm going to say that the majority of people own a home are above the poverty level. And the majority of people who are below the poverty level are renting. My concern, and I agree with Vice Mayor Eke, is that I don't want to make a decision without having data. I need to know what level of individuals are out there, where is their income level. You can go 3 years before they give you a notice. Go 3 years without paying your property tax before they give you a notice. You can pay one session of property tax and not pay it for a couple of sessions. As long as you're paying something, they do not foreclose on you. It's no different than any other bill, but my concern is is that you keep throwing out a number of 26,000, and I think that, I don't know where that is coming from. I think that maybe it's coming from like an overview of property or of income in the city, which is the median income is 42,000, and that's per individual, that's not per household. So I think that there's this need to help, and I agree with that, but I also know that there are programs out there that can help, not just the Housing Commission. There are other programs out there that are willing to help. The county is willing to work with people. And without that data to understand, because we've not had an influx, even when we've had low income levels in the city and high unemployment, we have not had an influx of houses being foreclosed due to property tax. So I truly would like to have more data than just saying, let's throw out a number and work on it.
Gotcha. Let's see, reviewing this, I think that there's split interest here. I think, I've heard at least 3 members of the commission, express interest in, in increasing the, income thresholds listed for the family sizes, for property exemptions. 3 members who are satisfied with where they're at currently. Working with this, we have a resolution in place. We've met the standard that we need to accomplish under state law, and we have an additional meeting to bring forward a proposal and vote upon a proposal if that's something that we wanted to change. Checking in with staff if that's something like, if we did decide at the March 9th meeting, pass a resolution, submission to the various authority, posting that resolution, I guess. We need to submit to the state to show that we have this resolution in place. Is there any?
You have to check with the
that we need to
assessor in
accomplish?
terms of a process there, if that resolution actually goes to the state or if that's just something that we file locally. I'm not
And we
entirely
can show
certain.
that we have it on the books and everything by that certain date.
But yes, we do need that on the books before March 11th, though.
Okay, it would need to be on the books, but passing it at the meeting would accomplish that.
Correct.
Okay. My question was to determine if there was additional bureaucratic work that needed to occur on the back end, essentially from staff. That was what I needed to determine there. Again, there is members of the commission who's have interest in making changes. I look at it. Michigan's minimum wage, I believe, is just jumping online right now. I believe it's the $13.73 per hour as of January 1st. Per year, that's about $28,558 per person before taxes. And that's one person on minimum wage there. I would think that there's room we could potentially raise that limit for the standards that we have here. But I think there would be additional conversation and wanting to have a cohesive guide to why we're doing that. So if we can if members of the commission want to bring forward a proposal at our next meeting with a defined, I think, defined what it is we're doing, or again, the reasoning behind that as far as how much we're raising that limit by. I think that's something that we could consider, that we could look at entertaining at the next meeting or anticipate having that back on the agenda. Other members of the commission? Again, people against making changes, it's already in place. We have set the poverty guidelines, but if there's a specific proposal that we want to come forward with, of listing the specific dollar amounts that members wanted to bring back to the commission.
I would be very happy to see a little bit more information regarding Incomes, for the city, I know, Manager DeScent said it was a little bit difficult. For clarification, the $26,650 is based off of federal guidelines that's in our packet on page 593. But yeah, if we could get a little bit more information, I believe your math was probably going off of 40 hours a week, correct?
Just quick Google search, minimum wage, yearly income, yeah.
I know that it's common practice for some businesses to keep hours under full-time so that way they don't have to supply benefits for their employees. So even at, minimum wage, chances are you're going to have a couple of jobs in order to be able to afford your home. With the logic that most people that own a home are well above the poverty line, then it really wouldn't hurt the city at all if we raised it. So, but it would be great to have a little bit more information next meeting and be able to make a decision if we have the time in order to get it submitted to be in compliance.
Happy to take another look, Commissioner. I'll just say that I spent some time doing this, and I think the reliability, there's certainly websites out there that'll report something, but some of the problem was trying to back up the reliability of what they were reporting. So I'm happy to take another look and try to bring to the City Commission as much as I possibly can.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rollins.
Well, last weekend I watched this short news documentary on basically the increase in not only property taxes but homeowners insurance. And usually, like Commissioner Persbacher has stated, homeowners insurance and property taxes are usually wrapped up in escrow. And where homeowners get into problems is when not only the property tax rises, or even if it doesn't, but homeowners insurance rises and it's tacked on to their mortgage, and then they're not able to pay their mortgage on top of that. So I think we should further discuss the property tax issue to allow the homeowner some flexibility in being able to pay that mortgage. Myself, my property taxes and homeowners insurance is not in my escrow account because I'm exempt from paying property taxes due to my veteran status. So, but for those that are not as fortunate, this becomes a real issue of affordability to be able to pay that mortgage payment, especially when you have no idea what your homeowner's insurance is going to be for any particular year. And if you can't pay your mortgage because of that, you're not going to pay your property taxes either. So I think that's something that needs to be discussed in order to have even prospective homeowners being able to have that flexibility in order to determine whether or not they're going to have their property taxes as part of their escrow, just to avoid that possibility of being foreclosed, not only due to property taxes, but basically being unable to make their mortgage payment because of their homeowner's insurance, which is a must if you don't have 20% of your principal paid down.
Commissioner Alsager.
My recent experience of doing taxes for people at the Commission on Aging, and I'm not a CPA.
This is not financial
Yeah.
advice.
But most of the low-income people that we service are renting.
Commissioner Demerol.
And then if that is the case, this isn't going to take away from tax revenue either.
Gotcha. I would make a motion at this time to table this conversation until our March 9th City Commission meeting.
Seconded.
Okay. There's a motion to table made by myself to table the discussion until the March 9th meeting, seconded by Commissioner Skalitsky. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay, bringing us back, we were on item 13, And by the mayor's math, somehow we're back at item number 8 from the consent agenda. It was moved previously this evening that we are consider awarding the contract for the 2026 Nelson Park Mill and Overlay / Thin Overlay Project to TBD Construction for $64,626. Funds are available in the 2026 Parks Department operating budget. Commissioner Skalitsky, I believe you had requested this item moved out of the consent agenda into the regular agenda. If you wanted to begin our discussion on the item before any kind of motion is made.
Yes, looking back at our packet, the bids that were submitted, 2 were very close. One was TBD, I believe out of Zealand. I'd have to get back to the page. For the $64,626. There was also another one submitted by Central Asphalt, which is a contractor based out of Mount Pleasant for 68,000 and some change. If need, I have expressed my desire for the city to pursue union labor in our contracts and our bids. If this is not something to consider, I think that we should look at keeping our work local to local contractors rather than somebody that is an hour away. Personal thoughts.
Commissioner Demerol?
I agree. I think that it isn't a big difference. And when you look at that difference, that's something that's going to go to our community. People who are working here, it's going to only go back into the community.
Question for staff on the topic. We have a local purchasing policy or favorability policy. Could you remind me, I can't remember the percentage that it allows for of a bid being higher. But if you could remind me if this number falls within that range.
Yeah, so 2 things that I just want to note on that, $10,000 and up, which would be the bid threshold that we're on, it would have to be a 2% differential. That the price difference between the 2 was 5%, which is why it didn't meet that threshold. But the other thing to note too is that the business has got to be located within the city limits for that to uphold. Central Asphalt is actually outside of the city limits.
Okay, so we do have, again, we have the local favorability for purchasing, but Central Asphalt located outside of the city limits. And again, it was outside of that percentage threshold as well, is my understanding. The 5% threshold, 5%?
So it's
2%. 2%, thank you.
And the difference between the actual prices was 5%.
Okay, thank you.
And I just had a comment, just to maybe help the conversation. Central Asphalt will likely get jobs this year yet in our paving contracts. And also, I would be careful about sort of arbitrarily taking second low. We do have plenty of bids where Central Asphalt is the only bidder. And so we try to make sure that we get outside bidders to keep things competitive. A lot of times with these construction projects actually being local, and Central Asphalt is a great contractor, so it's a bit of an odd position for me to be in here because I have nothing against them at all. But a lot of times with these construction projects, local bidders, they already have less mobilization. They have some benefits, sort of intrinsically from being local. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. But that's all I had.
Other questions from members of the commission or discussion from members of the commission? Okay. Not hearing any. Is there a motion at this time? Commissioner Perschbacher.
I motion that we accept the bid of TBD and grant it to them.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Perschbacher to accept the TBD bid, seconded by Vice Mayor Ake. Any final discussion before we vote? No. All those in favor of approving the bid, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
Aye.
Motion passes. Commissioner Sklitsky dissenting. Okay. That brings us into announcements on city-related issues and new business. Yes. Had to flip my page here. I didn't want to lose anything. Announcements on city-related issues and new business. So members of the commission, if you have anything to bring forward at this time for the community or other members of the commission, please take this opportunity, starting with Commissioner Alsager.
I didn't bring anything tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Demiroff.
Nothing.
Vice Mayor Ake.
Nothing.
Commissioner Perschbacher.
As the snow begins to melt and hopefully we are moving towards that warmer season, please be aware that there are opportunities to help all of us maintain our city. When I am walking down the downtown area or walking in my neighborhood, when I find trash, I pick it up and I throw it away where it belongs. It is, the city does work on cleaning up our city and they do a grand job, but sometimes you just find something on the sidewalk and there's trash cans everywhere. Let's just help each other maintain our beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Perschbacher. Commissioner Rollins.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Sklitsky.
I will actually piggyback off of Commissioner Perschbacher. Same is true for our city drains. As things are thawing out, where the snow is melting, we are going to have some leaves, a little bit of debris in our drains. Just a stick poking it out will clear everything out, and it can prevent somebody's home from actually flooding. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Sklitsky. That brings myself. I have nothing at this time. Let's see. Quiet evening. That'll bring us into public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. If you are a member of the public and in attendance, either online or in person, and would like to speak on anything on the agenda or off the agenda, please step up to the microphone. You'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. If you're on Zoom, please use the raised hand feature. Are there any emails received?
So there were 2 emails received just before this meeting started, both in support of Loot Castle and the downtown leadership continuity. We can print these or put these in your packet for next meeting.
It would be appreciated. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anjani Agrawal, and I am representing Mid-Mitten Montessori today. As the president of the board of the school, I am presenting a complaint related to the 2 parking lots that are adjacent to the school, one on Arnold Street, that's the west of the school building, and one on South Side, that's on Maple Street. They both are city parking lots and maintained by the city, but the sidewalks are maintained by the school. Like any other property, we clean up the sidewalks. It's a preschool, like K to 1 grade, 1st grade, and kids are coming out. They're always with their parents, but the other patrons of like the neighborhood businesses are parking in those lots, and it's becoming a problem because they park over the sidewalk, and we cannot clear the sidewalks when the snow removal people come in the morning, because some of these businesses are open as early as 5 o'clock. There's a fitness center for which the patrons are there at 4:30 or 5 for classes, and they park over there, but they are not parking appropriately. The parking is not the problem, it's they park over the sidewalk, and we cannot clear the sidewalks off the snow. We cannot keep calling and paying for snow removal company at beck and call 3 times a day. They come at specific times before school opening, and at the time, if the parking lot is full and parking is over the sidewalks, they cannot clear those. Also, they're parking really close to the fire hydrant, and that's against the rules, I believe. That's not a parking rule, but nothing's being done. That's not our property as in the parking lot, so we cannot do anything about it. If we have ever addressed it, they come out yelling, they come out in groups, they go in and call other people. We recently had an incident, which was also reported to the police, that they backed up into a parent's car while the kids were in the car or getting in the car. And this was followed by, she told them that this wasn't right. The lady went inside, brought 4 more people, started yelling at the parent. Parent filed the police complaint, but this is not appropriate. It's becoming a nuisance more so. We also have a private parking lot on the east side of the building, but that's not enough for all of the parents to pick up at one point in time. So parents also park on those other parking lots. But also those patrons are parking on our private lot as well. And if told that this is our private property, which the boards are there, they again yell at you, they make faces, they don't use good language. So our request would be if we can make those 2 public parking lots, at least the city parking lots. 2 of those spots are where you can pick up, it's a 15-minute parking direction. Like you can only park for 15 minutes. Can we make more of those spots just 15 minutes up to at least 6 p.m. and not 5:30 because the school closes at 5:30? So pick up if you're getting your kid out and into the car would take a few more from there. So it could be, if it could be 6 p.m., please. And more of those spots could be those 15-minute spots, and plus some sort of observation on it or repercussions if they're not parked correctly. If they're parking on sidewalks, what are we supposed to do in that case if those sidewalks cannot be cleared? But the patrons that are parking for other businesses over there and the business owners have been less than cooperative in helping out with this situation, which has been tried already and has been going on for a few years now. So I would like city's help in this matter.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Hutter, 1021 Glen Avenue. I'm a fairly recent but returning resident of Mount Pleasant. My husband and I met at CMU in 1995. I graduated in 98, he in 2000. After that, we got married, we moved away, we got jobs. And we, in fact, moved across country. We were living outside of Seattle. And we decided a couple of years ago what we really wanted to do, as we were approaching middle age, is to go back to Michigan and honestly go back to Mount Pleasant. And we've been questioned on that decision a little bit. You know, why would you move from, outside of Seattle to Mount Pleasant, Michigan? But we love this town and we've always loved this town. And I feel like now as adults, we have the ability to bring what we found and bring it back to Mount Pleasant and help build Mount Pleasant to just add to the community. And that's what we would like to do. And so we moved here and we actually bought 2 buildings on Broadway. And we were building our dream store, Stitches Oddities, which unfortunately had a fire last September. But we are rebuilding and we're bringing it back. But the reason I'm speaking today is because we've met many people from the community. We're meeting more who have talked with us and helped us this past year. But the person who I feel helped us the most and we really connected with the most what is Luke Castle from MMDC. He really, more than just like welcoming us to the community and telling us like what we can expect from him through his job. Really, we shared with him the vision for the future that I feel like we both share for Mount Pleasant. And I was really, really upset to hear this past weekend that he was abruptly let go from MMDC. And I worry about the future that we were looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seth Triesenberg, 1021 Glen. As my wife said already, after years of working around Detroit and then Seattle, we decided to move back to Mount Pleasant to be part of this community. We saw it as a place to start the business we always wanted to start since we met here. And we decided to invest in buildings, which had to have the fire. And we spent most of 2025 updating and working on the building. During that busy year, one day Luke Castle came into our building. In Luke, we found a kindred spirit who wanted to make Mount Pleasant a destination. He saw the town as we did, a place with opportunity, a place to build a future. Luke introduced me to many people in town. There was always somebody I needed to meet. And we went from outsiders, not knowing many people in the business owners, to becoming community members. While most people could say that as this was his job, it went far beyond this job for Luke. Luke lives and breathes this town. He's always looking for something that can advance this town and bring more to it. We spent many late nights at the bars, and having dreams about what we could make out of Mount Pleasant, and also taking walks around town, going, well, what's that vacant space? What could we do in that vacant space? And trying to make this place better. Luke even tricked me into becoming a member or becoming part of the Broadway Theater. Now volunteering on a film committee that he just said, come to this meeting, and now I am doing that. So he's just a person who brings the community together. The news last week of his firing was very hard for me to take. The person I've seen in the most to build the vision of Mount Pleasant was removed from the position of connecting, advancing, and uplifting this town. And I was at the meeting, the merchant meeting that morning. Luke was running that meeting. And as always, I mean, there's other people here who have been at those meetings with Luke running them that have connected and been brought into this community because of Luke. And those meetings have gotten very productive. I've seen them, even the time I've gone there, get better and better. And I feel like it's helped to have those meetings. And Luke is the core reason that meeting has been working. Not only did the organization let Luke go, on the same day that they let him go, in the meeting, they presented us with a gross document basically asking us to pay them to do what they're given money to do already, including by the city, which I find kind of disgusting personally. They then removed the person who is making the connections to all the community and did it in a pretty disrespectful way. I would like to, I came here to not only ask for the city to find a place to keep Luke involved in this community, because I think he brings a lot to the community. He's a great person to have. He has energy. He has dreams to make things better and find ways to make things better, but also to stop supporting this organization who clearly does not understand how to make the city better. I thought it was a gross use of meeting that has been sponsored by the city. Well, the role has been sponsored by the city to help with these merchant meetings, but they're using it as their own platform to do their own things. We already are giving them money. They don't need us as the business owners who need the money to give them more money. I find it a bit of a problem. I would also, I'm looking at my time. I would also say that if the city can't act quickly on this, I will try to work with the merchants, the local merchants, and take that meeting to a local place and take it out of MMDC, because I do not feel comfortable going in that building anymore or being part of anything with them. I do not find them a good member of this community. So if other people would like to help me with that, I will take it. I just need a location. Mine's burnt down, so I need a location I can have those meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joseph Carrion, 109 North Arnold Street, and I'm glad I'm not the only person talking about sidewalks today. More specifically, I want to talk about the care needed for them. So sidewalks are weird as they're publicly used but privately maintained. There are some cases where the city handles it, but that isn't the part I want to focus on since I just learned about the city's sidewalk plow route last week and I haven't had ample time to address this myself. Most of the routes I take daily are privately maintained, so I'd like to focus on those today. So a rule is only as good as it's enforced. The rule is sidewalks should be cleared within 24 hours after snowfall, including around mailbox approaches. This requirement applies even in areas where the city later clears sidewalks. If sidewalks remain uncleared, the city may issue a civil infraction or perform the clearing with associated costs billed to the property. These measures are in place to help maintain a safe environment for the whole community. Never once have I seen this enforced, yet this city will waste no time putting notices on people's doors for leaving their trash cans out for too long. It just feels like we have our priorities out of place. And this isn't just for residential this isn't just a residential problem. Mission and Pickard suffer the same issues. In fact, commercial properties are arguably worse as they don't hesitate to clear their parking lots at all while leaving piles of snow where the entrances meet the sidewalk. One of the biggest reasons I moved to Mount Pleasant was because of how walkable this town is today, not 50 years from now, today. As much as I love the direction this town is headed, I'm already satisfied with what is here now. My home has a walk score of 94, and as someone who has lived car-free for 2 years now, I have to admit that number is absolutely accurate, but only outside of the winter. I would knock a lot of points off that score during the winter. And thank God my legs work just fine. I can only imagine how hard it would be to navigate this town if I were disabled. Now, I want the infrastructure we have in our master plan as much as the next person, but we have to get maintenance and care right first. We don't have to wait for brand new infrastructure to finally care enough to maintain them year round. We have to do that now because right now, I think it's a waste of taxpayers' dollars to build anything new if this is how we're going to be treating them. We have the rules set already. All I'm asking is we enforce them. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dev. If you don't know who I am, leave your house because I'm everywhere. I host the Comedy Slam at the Broadway Theater, and I will say that the season 2 of the Comedy Slam wouldn't have happened if Luke Castle had impressed the board of the Broadway to actually give a stipend so that we could award some prizes and also to compensate my time. And that wouldn't have happened if Luke Castle had pushed it and encouraged other board members to do so. I became pretty close to Luke over the past year just because he came up from Detroit, and that's where I was before the pandemic. And Detroit does things a little different than Mount Pleasant, but the spirit of the entrepreneurship and the hustle and the connection that you have to make and the relationships you have to make down there to make things happen are pretty good values that I think that our community needs. I'm very curious because the downtown of Mount Pleasant seems to be like a really decent place, but it doesn't seem to have a ton of investment in it. Just for example, like the Painted Turtle was a cool place that people loved going to, and then the fire happened and it hasn't come back yet. And I don't know what the story is with that. I heard that the new owner who took it over from the past owner didn't have full insurance, but it was this place, this artistic place that people loved going to. And I don't see any sort of assistance or help with that happening, but I don't know the behind the scenes. I'm curious because I don't know how all the finances work or how MMDC ended up getting the money to have a downtown development person or what Luke's whole role was, but I know that he was active, he was engaged. We had a creative mixer at Dog Central that was a blast. We had like over 70 people go to it, and he's been very involved in trying to get people meeting together, collaborating, networking, and I think that's pretty awesome. I'm curious as to why there's not like a downtown development authority for Mount Pleasant that's like visible and specific and run by the government here. Bay City has one, and it seems as though the state of Michigan has Act 197 from 1975 that allows the establishment of a downtown development authority. We do have a strategic plan that was from 2003 that seems to be associated with Meet Here, Mount Pleasant, but I don't see anything that has been really updated as of recent as to what is the strategic plan for the downtown. It seems as though people like me are doing the grassroots efforts to do that, but I don't really know what else is happening, and it doesn't really seem to be transparent or visible at this time. But I do know it's something that's super valuable. I was very close to someone who used to be the downtown developer for Bay City, and Bay City has reputation. People know about Bay City, what they have to offer, who they are. They're branded, and the only thing that like people have ill to say about Bay City lately, I think, is the that stupid bridge toll that charges people for going across it for no reason. But Mount Pleasant has so much potential. There's a lot of things that I've been able to do because of how affordable it is to live here. And I am a renter, and rent is pretty affordable. And my parents have worked here my entire life, and they've always worked here and haven't wanted to leave. And I think that it's about time that maybe we all come together and really focus on making our downtown place maybe be like a little Ann Arbor. We have so much arts. We have so many people that are interested in getting involved. I see it firsthand. I'm one of those people that has gotten super involved and met up with a lot of the businesses downtown. And I just think that's super valuable. And especially if we invest in that and try to connect the silos in Mount Pleasant, try to connect the tribe, the college, and the downtown all together, and do more to get people involved, engaged, and activated, I think it would be beneficial to all of us, small business owners, residents, college students. We don't really have a lot of things that are keeping college students here. If we have things like incubators for small businesses, if we had someone who was a downtown development authority or person that was specifically dedicated to that, creating incubators, creating test kitchens where people can go and make their food and sell it, or even we have CMURC, which is like a co-working space that is way too expensive for this community. If we had something like that downtown, or maybe a network where you connect to small businesses to create a co-working network, might even attract entrepreneurs or keep local talent. That's my time. That's what I want to say, and let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bruce Trevaro. I'm from Mount Pleasant here. Recent business owner, joined the ranks of my peers, and was kind of like a deer in the headlights when I got started. Really had no idea where to go, what to do, or how to connect. Was introduced to a lot of different resources, thanks to Luke Castle, and really kind of hit hard when just got much like Seth there, I was at the meeting that morning and then found out later that like almost immediately after he was let go. It just kind of took the breath away from me. It does kind of leave me back where I started. I don't have a big speech or a whole lot to say here other than it does leave me just kind of out in the wind, questioning where to go with my business. Now that someone who was instrumental to getting the ball rolling and getting some momentum started is now no longer there. And so that's all I've got. But thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Margie Notstein. I live at 1361 South Crawford Street. This is regarding the City of Mount Pleasant southwest corner at Broomfield and Crawford. In my many 5-minute opinion speeches, I've covered private schools, which drain the public schools of the best behaved kids, If a kid doesn't fit in, they will be told to leave in a private school. I've talked of losing our tax base, frittering away any land for future homes. The fact that this school doesn't need this 30-acre particular piece of property, there's plenty of vacant land encircling Mount Pleasant. In the fall of 2024, I sat at the farmer's market and collected 50 or 60 signatures from people I didn't know. They just agreed no private school was needed. I didn't realize that I'd need those signatures now, a year and a half later. I didn't keep them, silly me. When you're in a church congregation with people you've gotten to know and the minister or a church leader says, "We have an idea. We need you to sign a petition. So in the foyer, as you leave the church, would you stop at a table and sign our petition? It won't take much of your time." And then there are 5 churches which are doing the same thing. Quick, easy, no work, no thinking. It's much harder to be a resident with no direct following or even any meeting place and no news articles telling both sides of the story. The church signers are only thinking of their school, and few consider the land, the zero tax base, or the needed future homes. And then I saw the city commission meeting packet for tonight. In my speeches, which strongly support zoning only for homes and keeping the money for our city's tax base, was all for naught. I almost gave up. In the packet, I saw how the school had a sign up on the commission site. In the packet, I saw how the city staff and the 5 churches had taken the city website and put a QR code for monetary and signature support. And in the commission packet, that's even easier than setting up a table. For the school, you just get in a phone, you go click. And since it's part of the city packet, it looks like the city supports this school with its textbook reasons, hoping we think we must need this school. Why would the city leaders do this? Support the school and not listen to the citizens who don't want to lose that much tax base, deficits. Every house in Mount Pleasant will pay a little more tax now and also lose the possibility of more family homes in a neighborhood, especially with this proposed private building supported by more than $1 million. And it could be built anywhere. That piece of property is former farm field, not wooded or good for their outdoor classes. The city only has that simple property left for its benefit and future dreams. The school's PR info only advertises, other than teaching biblical scriptures, the same things any school, even the public, any school endeavors to do. And they can do that a half mile down the road if they want. There's nothing miraculous about that 30 acres, but the churches cling to it. I don't have a congregation of 1,000 people behind me. Of course, many of those church congregations aren't residents of the city of Mount Pleasant, but many people tell me they agree with my ideas. They just don't speak out here. But I feel we need people like me trying to rationally, with thought and time and energy, trying to show other views and not letting city staff control everyone with the present ideas for building a textbook city. The pendulum will move forward and backwards, and the textbooks will change, but that 30 acres of city property will be lost forever. Please don't let it go. And this is the QR right on your website. People go to that and they click on it and then they sign up for the petition that the school wants you to think they need built here. They also ask for monetary support too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any raised hands on Zoom? Ashley,
Hello?
Yep, you have the.
Okay, I'm Ashley Petrash, and I live at 114 North Lansing Street. The poverty exemption for the property taxes, I believe it doesn't have to be like a simple cutoff. That's just like your limit, the federal. If you wanted to go a little higher, you can say, well, this is the base. If you're at this absolute poverty, we'll give you a full exemption. But you could raise it up in brackets and say, hey, if you are still kind of impoverished, but you make a little bit more money, we'll give you a 50%, 25%, and some towns do that. And I wrote an email to everybody, and I believe there was a breakdown in their examples of how that works with one of those links. And that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Not seeing anyone else in line for public comment, I am going to go ahead and close public comment on agenda and non-agenda items. We have one work session still this evening. It is 8:29 right now. Is there interest in a recess?
10 minutes.
Okay. We will, in that case, we'll be at recess for 10 minutes. We'll resume at 8:40. We are going to go back into session with our work session this evening. We have our work session on Tenants' Rights Committee. Manager DeSenza, like to start us off.
Absolutely. So Public Safety Director Paul Loria has provided a memo outlining his research on tenant rights committees. The work session packet includes information on ordinances establishing these committees and information that they produce. The memo outlines current procedures for when the city is made aware of tenants, and at this point, I'm kind of shifting over to our current practices. These are typically addressed through the city's code enforcement. City Commission is asked to provide clarity on the following. What is the issue that the City Commission wishes to address that is deficit in the current process or program? How does the City Commission foresee a committee addressing those issues? Would existing boards or commissions or other programs be able to address those issues? And what authority would the City Commission wish to grant such a committee?
Okay. Thank you,
I
Manager.
just have a comment to start the discussion here.
Commissioner
After
Hassel.
having about 500 pages of letters, and now we get all of these things that you've researched, thanks a lot.
It's a lot. Okay. Right. Let's see, in your research, Director Loria, any key takeaways that you were seeing as you were, I know you had broad general research that you were conducted with, but like takeaways for yourself as you were conducting that research?
It was a little difficult. I don't know exactly what we're trying to solve. Now, while I didn't get specifics, I tried to generalize them being code problems. One of the things I stayed away from was the contractual relationship. So for instance, cost. That is between the tenant and the landlord. And so addressing anything like that became, I kind of put away to the side. If we're looking for better living conditions, proper appliances and all that stuff, we have fire inspections. That is a proactive time for us to go in there and look at things. Now, we're not testing every single refrigerator, the washer and dryer. They're generally looking for electrical issues, fire code violations and whatnot. Those issues are typically brought up proactively by a tenant to a non-responsive landlord. I did provide some of the information through the fire chief, or from the fire chief rather, where it's about 100 complaints in a given year. You saw how many rental units we have. When it all boils down, you're looking at less than 6%. So again, if there's a specific item that we're trying to address that isn't protected, I guess I'll say, by a landlord tenant lease agreement, I think, that's what we talk about. But if this is about high rent or something, I think that's a different discussion that we would have to get Mr. Homier involved in.
Okay. Thank you, Director Loria. Okay. Turning back to members of the commission as we're having this conversation. Is there anyone that would like to start off the conversation on this topic here?
Skalitsky, you brought up the topic, so what's on your mind? Maybe you can indicate what you were thinking about when you asked for this, and I have some thoughts too, but I'd like to hear from you first.
Sure. If we go back to email sent back in December from Commissioner Perschbacher, she kind of broke down the ability of what a tenants' rights committee would be able to do: review issues affecting tenants, advise city commission on policies, provide recommendations to improve communications, identifying barriers, supporting public education, making recommendations regarding code, submitting written reports to the city commission. I think these are all valuable bits that would be very beneficial to the city, considering that we've had an ongoing housing issue. Now I know that we do have the city or the Housing Commission, that, does work on a lot of these issues. What I have right here, this is one of the packets that is provided by the Housing Commission when they're helping low-income families find housing. That is a lot of information for them to go through for each client that they get, not just on the tenant's end, but also on the landlord's end. So providing more workload for them, I think would inhibit them in the work that they are able to do. Looking at Director Loria's information, just with the codes, with the complaints that we do get, most of them go back to issues with the contractual agreement itself, which to me, it points out there is a lack of education on what types of rights a tenant has. Otherwise, they wouldn't be submitting these types of complaints that they don't have any grounds on filing. Speaking with members of the Housing Commission, that was one of the most helpful things that they think that a tenants' rights committee would be able to provide is community education on what they actually can and can't do. I really appreciate all the information that was put together by staff. Looking at the Tenants' Bill of Rights that Ann Arbor has put in place, there is a lot of progressive changes, a lot of changes that would do a lot of good for residents in Mount Pleasant, but a lot of these they would be very drastic, and it would be a big change for landlords and how they conduct business inside our city. So for us to say, like, we're just going to adopt Ann Arbor's or Kalamazoo's policies, it would be lazy on our part, I think. So I feel like it's necessary that we establish our own committee so that way we can address what types of ordinances that we need to look for that would be most beneficial. I think basic things like having a right to renew your lease is something that's very important to help protect housing and help keep people from losing their homes. Having a right to repair is something that, while it is technically in state laws, there's a lot of legwork that needs to get done by the tenant in order to make those improvements and get compensated afterwards. So, I mean, these are just basic things that, if a committee was provided, we could put something in place that is aligned with the needs for Mount Pleasant.
Okay. Members, Vice Mayor?
I agree. Having a tenant's right, at least clarifying what that would look like for me is important, because I have mentioned in the past that the Isabella County Human Rights Committee has in the past addressed a number of issues related to tenants, whose rights have been violated. And I have had to investigate quite a lot of them. And I know how much time it takes and, the implications of that. And so I think that it is important for us to create a safe space for, residents. I have been to a number of these rental properties, and I'm not going to mention them. I know where they are, and I would not live there because of the problems that I have, that I found, and the difficulty of talking to the landlords. Some of them live within our vicinity. Some of them are companies that are not based here. Okay, so I think we have to be cognizant of that too, that we're dealing with a broad spectrum of landlords. I'm just going to put them collectively. And that's part of what we have to consider as we talk about this. What would those rights look like? I agree with my colleague here, Commissioner Skalitsky, that, trying to adopt the documents, the rights from Ann Arbor or Kalamazoo would be it's a very steep, hike. I'm not going to say that it's being lazy, but I think, we are a different city altogether. So we need to put together something that represents or addresses our own concerns. But one of the things that I would like us to also think about is making sure that once we develop this, it's not sitting on our website or somewhere, that we actually create some kind of document, maybe infographic, or just, document that, and to make sure that that document is also available to the renting agency. And part of the condition is that they will have to give it as part of the contract to the renters. All right. I want us to develop one. When we do that, they have the responsibility also to make sure that whoever is renting from them gets a copy of this, as opposed to saying, go find out where it is yourself. Okay, because that's one of the ways in which we make sure that anybody who is renting knows what their rights are. You are correct in saying that, in stating that, this is important. And a lot of times people who are renting don't know that they have any rights. Okay. We have a city that has a huge institution, a university in it. And some of the cases that I've had to address are cases, or were cases, that had to do with international students who absolutely don't know that they have any rights, So I think it's important for us to do this. People on fixed income, who are afraid that if they're evicted, they're going to be out on the streets, all right? So we've got to think about all of these, what we want this particular document or to do. But I also do think that the committee that we set up, I don't think that it is its responsibility to go investigating, these issues. At least, I think one of the questions that I keep asking is, what would what would the constitution of the committee look like? Is it primarily a committee made up of city commissioners, or will it also have representatives from the city itself? Okay, who is going to be part of this? What does it, So yeah, let me just stop there. I have a lot of things in my head, so I'd better just stop. Okay.
Gotcha. Commissioner Perschbacher.
With everything that Director Loria put in his memo, it feels like for the most part, we've been able to manage the rentals in a reasonable way. Yeah, I did send out, if we're going to do a tenants housing committee or whatever, that these would be the things that would be involved. But I almost wonder if we should, in a sense, like what Vice Mayor Eke said, create a document, whether it be in a form that is like a brochure or an infographic that can be handed to renters, maybe require the landlords to give them, tell them what their rights are. And then when we do the fire inspections, make sure that we leave a copy with the renters at the same time, so it reminds them again. Because right now, according to this, we've only had 6%, I believe it said in here, the complaints involving roughly 6% of rental properties annually. Considering we have about 50% of our homes are rentals, whether they are homes or apartments or other structures like duplexes and things like that. We definitely do not have a large level. If this was above 10% or even 15%, I would be definitely saying this seems to be a problem, because that's a lot. But I think that if we started out with a tenant's rights document that can be sent out, that can be given to tenants, make sure that the landlords understand that every lease that they sign, even if it is a renewal of lease, that they receive that tenant's rights. I think that we would be serving the public more than having a commission set up that possibly could get stuck in the weeds, as commissions do, and not be able to follow through or give reasonable information to the city.
In the packet, there was that example of the information concerning tenants' rights, and it talks about the city clerk providing the booklet to landlords and property owners and whatnot. And I'm not suggesting that we can't reinvent the wheel, but I'm wondering if a good place to start is with what we already have possession of in the way of tenants' rights, and add things or delete things as
they apply.
As they apply and as you guys wish it to look like.
So for myself, working with this, I think that pursuing creating a city committee, like a city body, focused solely on the experience of tenants within the city. And we can define more about that, but right now it seems we're debating whether or not even go in the direction of the committee. But for me, I think having a city body focus solely on the experience of tenants within the city should be the goal. One of the things, conversation that I don't remember the work session that we had ages ago. It would have been probably 23 or 24 when we had this. But it was, I can't remember what it was, but it was something that I brought back from, I just got in my charter book. We're all bringing props this evening, it seems. And reviewing some information from the charter, one of the primary things laid out in our founding document or primary document, Article 1, Establishment of City Governments, Section 1, Establishment of the City, 2, Legislative and Governing Authority, 3, General Powers, Particular Powers, 4, provide for public peace, health, safety. Section 4, the city shall provide for the public peace and health and for the safety of persons of property within the city. And then it moves on, Section 5, definition of qualified elector and registered elector, and then it moves on to Article 2, form of government. And as far as purpose for the city, as far as purpose for our government, Section 4 is the only reference to like providing public peace, health, and safety, and that's strictly focused on persons of property owners. Again, real property is the land that we're on. I would like to emphasize that I think that our code enforcement teams do a phenomenal job here within the city. I've personally rented from 4 different properties within the city, and I've one in Union Township. But I think our code enforcement officers do a phenomenal job, and I think that there is a wide variety of property owners and landlords out there who do provide a good service to the community with what they're offering. It's a mutually beneficial relationship with the people that they're renting to, and there's a lot of great homes for rent within the city. But there's also difficulties, as Vice Mayor Ake had pointed out. We have a large international student population who aren't aware of, of who to call if they have an issue or what to do or actions to take on that. And going back to our again, our charter, it's those founding ideas and those ideas that like we organize around that then filter out through the rest of how our organization works and operates. You look at the committees that we have currently. We have Planning Commission, which focuses on how you can utilize your property. You have the Zoning Board of Appeals, which focuses on decisions about how you utilize your property. You have Building Authority, you have the Tifa District, focus on people who own property. You have the Principal Shopping District, focused on use of property and assessments of property owners. Again, I think it's something 6,000 individual units of rentals, so about, and I don't know the vacancy rate or the occupancy rate in the city, but let's be ultra conservative and say we have a 50% occupancy rate. I know it's higher than that, but I don't know what the number is. But to illustrate the point, that's 3,000 people within the city who don't have a committee focused on what is their experience like, their specific experience. So I really do think more like, and then going back to Commissioner Skolitsky's point, he started rattling off just a laundry list of different things that we could be tackling. A lot of really forward-thinking ideas on how to improve and support some of the most vulnerable amongst us. Earlier this evening, we were talking about, people who are in poverty usually don't own property. People who are in poverty and vulnerable usually are people who are renting apartments. And talking about that, generally they come from whole communities of people who have been vulnerable, vulnerable people tend to stay vulnerable. It's hard to break that cycle of poverty. There's so many different topics and ideas and policies we could pursue as the city to tackle a lot of these issues. And it's not a single issue or a single thing that's going to improve anything. There are single actions that we can take that can support things. But I look at it from an organizational perspective of having a committee. We, the city commission, designate a committee to do this because, one, we don't have the time as the 7 of us and senior city staff up here. We have so many different issues that come before us on a bi-weekly basis that we have to tackle, that we have to address, that are imminent, timely, and have to stay current. And we don't know what we're going to come up next month against that none of us knew was happening today. So we can't solely put our focus into tenants' rights. That's not practical for the city commission. So my interest is pursuing the creation of a committee to focus on what is the experience of tenants within the city, and time to time propose changes to ordinances or action that could be taken by the city commission. I don't know if we delegate them any specific authority other than the ability to make recommendations and work with city staff to develop reports on information that they're interested in collecting, and we could potentially assign other duties. But I do think creating an actual committee from an institutional perspective would drive more change and be more beneficial than creating a single document, because I can guarantee that we could create a really effective document that Director Loria and Fire Chief Lopsinger probably could sink hundreds of hours in developing that document. But if we're not putting use and effect behind it, if we're not having any follow-up or any living nature to it, then it's really easy for us to move on from that. I think 2014 was the last time the city commission established our 9 values or 9 vision statements for the city. If you go through our city commission or the minutes from 2014, you'll see that we established 9 different vision statements for the city that, as far as I'm aware, are still standing. I can't name them. I don't know if other members of the committee, but because they were just left behind. If we could work to create a committee that actually, it will take time. We'll need to foster it. We'll need to develop some action for it. But I think it would be the right step to actually create a committee. Vice Mayor Eke.
Okay, so going back to my earlier comment, I did ask, I did indicate that I wasn't sure what, the committee would do. So you have at least delineated some of the responsibilities, and so has Commissioner Skeletsky. But I think the composition or the composition of the committee is important. Is it, are we going to have an ad hoc committee, a standing committee, a committee that also includes residents? Who makes up this particular committee? There are other entities in the community that address similar concerns. I do think that it is also important to work in collaboration with them. I realize that, sometimes we tend to replicate, tasks. But, for instance, the Isabella Human Rights Committee looks at issues, like this, because they are in many ways either human rights violations or civil rights violations. Yeah, especially when they're violating ADA, requirements, right? Accommodation, requirements. So they're not in compliance. So it's important, to at least, if we do create a committee, I mean, I'm in support of that. I just don't know how it is going to function and who makes up this committee. If we do create one, we also need to be able to work in collaboration with other entities who are doing similar work, especially if this particular body is not going to go and do the investigation and do other things. So it's important to work, across units. At the same time, I don't think that creating a committee should, I don't think that creating a committee means not creating this document, this rights document that we hand to, people who are renting. Otherwise, how do they know what their rights are? Okay. So we do, I think it's important to make sure that they get that, and to also hold landlords accountable for making sure that anybody who is renting from them gets that. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking. So, I mean, it's up to my colleagues to,
Other members of the commission who haven't had a chance to speak yet. Commissioner Demarest.
Yeah, I am in support of a committee. I think doing something like that's going to take some work and figuring out a lot of details, but ultimately, especially if you open it up to the community, to renters, to understand more of that aspect of it and get into the details that we can't get into. I think that's very important. And I think a document just to educate is as important, and they should not be separate, or I agree. Yeah.
Excellent. Good.
Commissioner Alsager.
I would say the committee should not just be renters, but some landlords as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want all voices, so that no one feels.
There's the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Building Authority and the Tifa district. There's a lot, I mean, there's a lot of representation for landlords. I mean, not, again, like, if we're focused on I'm not I think, I don't know what the, getting into the composition of it, but I think focusing on, I like that seems to me to be a little antithetical in that regard. I have I'd be concerned. If we're proposing tax on the downtown business owners are going to tell us no. They don't want an additional tax on the downtown most of the time. If we put additional requirements on landlords to take action, I think there's probably a likely source of what they might say to that.
But how many of them are going to be there? How large is this committee going to be? That's the other question I have, How many people do you want, are we gonna have there?
I'm not saying bar I'm not,
You
I'm not
can't-
saying
You cannot
bar.
leave a landlord out of this discussion.
You need at least one.
Hmm.
Just, how many people, again, it goes back to my earlier question, what is the composition of the committee going to look like? For sure, it has to include people outside the commission. And so, I mean, I don't know, that's what I'm thinking, for it to be equitable. For it to be equitable, for it to represent the voices that are impacted. The landlords, of course, have rights, but they are also will be impacted by the decisions we make. So will the tenants. So, again, I don't know. I mean, I'm open to suggestions.
I'm not interested in cutting landlords out of the discussion necessarily. My biggest thing is just I hesitate in my thoughts on it. In creating a committee that I don't know. It's
that has one landlord.
Again,
One property owner.
I look at it and I think to myself, like, again, if we create a committee that is in conflict with itself, I don't know. That's why, I mean, we're a group of 7, and this is a conversation taking place here. So, I mean, I appreciate the comments and everything. So, Commissioner Demeroff, yeah.
So the way I look at this is a sense of giving renters empowerment, right? And I'm not saying no to landlords on it, but there is a power dynamic between a landlord and a renter. And you have to be careful if you're trying to empower a group and placing the person who has power in that situation.
I think.
And I think that's a very important way to look at this is I'm not saying to exclude landlords, but you have to remember that this is a power dynamic. Renting and landlord is a power dynamic, and you have to be very careful with that power dynamic if you're going to include both sides. And you have to make sure that both sides are heard, yes, but if you are trying to empower one side that doesn't have power, you need to be very careful with who you include in that.
Commissioner Alsager.
One way to do that would be to say the chair of the committee must be a renter, so they have a voice.
That's a interesting proposal there. Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea there. Commissioner Perschbacher.
Okay, so I do couples counseling periodically, and the one thing that I do is I am the moderator. I am not involved in the relationship, but I help the individuals be able to communicate effectively together. I don't put one or the other in charge of whether and what we're going to talk about or how we're going to proceed. I will talk to both of them, make sure that we're in agreement on the direction that we're going. So I wouldn't put a renter in charge. I wouldn't put a landlord in charge. I would put somebody who is, who is stepped away from it to be the moderator, to be able to listen to both sides and work through it. So it might be somebody on the Housing Commission, or it might be maybe somebody on the Planning Commission, or maybe a person in the on staff here that has the ability to listen to both sides and walk through what it would be. If you have a disagreement where one person wins and one person loses, both parties lose. So we want to make sure that there is a moderator that can say, what can I take and what can I give, so you both feel like you're coming out of this with what you need. So I do not want to exclude landlords, and I do not want to put one side over the other. I want to make sure that there's a moderator, if we're going to go in this direction, that is going to be unbiased.
Gotcha. Vice Mayor Aka.
Love Singer has been standing there. I don't know what I want.
I know, but the commission, I was giving the commission priority.
And
Going to make a comment. Let him say whatever he needs to say.
I know the rental system pretty well. And I hear a lot of talk about tenants and tenants and tenants. I've heard very little talk about landlords
responsibilities. We don't talk about necessarily rights. We talk about what the tenant's responsibilities are and what the owners or the landlord's responsibilities are. Are you living up to those responsibilities? And I think we would get much farther if we framed that in that aspect, because I think the tenants are very well informed. I think the most 98% of the landlords are reputable. They're human, like everybody else. Most of the problems that we get involved with are based off the tenant. A problem with the tenant or something that they failed to do with their responsibility. A lot, and they don't know that. And they don't know. And the tenant's right package that you have, we've had that for over 20 years and we've handed it out. We've made it available. We talk to the tenants when we do our rental inspections about that, because once in a while we catch where somebody is, hey, I can't get my deposit back and how come this and that. And we can direct them to that tenant's rights to help them with that. But there is a clear line for us. We're not, at this point, we're not going to get involved between tenant and landlord issues. That's between them. They have a contract. I'm going to make sure that landlord's living up to his responsibilities. And you talk about the tenants not knowing how to, a lot of times they don't even know how to contact the people to let them know there's a problem. The majority of the complaints that we got, we took some today where didn't have heat. Did you call the emergency hotline? Did you notify? They called the main switchboard number and left the voicemail. That's how they notified them. And we tell them, well, send an email to the manager, contact whatever processes they have. If they have an emergency contact number they give you, call that and let them know. We contacted the manager. Yep, it was fixed an hour ago. We didn't even know about it until we, and a lot of times they don't know about it. And sometimes it's just simple communication processes. I think the landlord business is very tough. When they need to get a tenant out, they have a very, very hard time doing so. And I see that. I haven't seen some of the things that more of the human rights or the discriminate. I haven't seen any of those things necessarily. I'm sure they exist at some level. They're there, okay? But I see a lot of struggling landlords that are just trying to get their unit back so they can spend more money into it because it's ruined. And they're in court trying to figure out how to make it happen. And the tickets we write, code enforcement writes, the fire department, right? And it's a big pile of money. Judge just kind of swishes it off. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. And so we don't have a lot of teeth sometimes. But the key is getting both parties together and talking about it and solving the problem. But I do believe you need landlords involved in this if this is gonna be successful. What you guys are talking about is like a snowball and it's gonna be as big as this room by the time you get to really dealing with something. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sklitsky.
Yeah, I do think that education is a very, very important part of accomplishing any goal when it comes to finding common ground between tenants and landlords. This is something that is provided in every packet that the Housing Commission provides all the applicants. It's the same information that's provided inside of our packet towards the end of it for tonight's meeting. There's There's also guidelines in like Ann Arbor for their agreements for leases to provide this information at the renewal of every lease. I know Mount Pleasant does provide it, but you know, it's having that type of enforcement and that type of policy in place to ensure that there is education. It's a step in the right direction. You know, making sure that we have communication between landlords and tenants, like was a goal, can be a goal of this committee. Another step in the right direction. I definitely agree that landlords should have a say involved. What I have envisioned for the committee is primarily consisting of tenants, but with one landlord on there, and hopefully somebody that is either on this commission or involved in housing as a whole, like on the housing commission, to act as a moderator and help make sure that any policy that is put forth is fair, because these are just suggestions which are going to have to come in front of the city commission in order to pass. So in order for them to be effective, there needs to be common ground, and input from both parties to make any type of effective progressive ordinance.
Vice Mayor?
I'm going to assume that this body is a recommending body, right? The committee is, you know, its role is to recommend, you know, to either recommend, you know, to the city commission or recommend further processes or further action because, okay. Yeah, that's my assumption. Okay, you know, again, you know, I want to make sure that it is clear that we're not sitting here trying to disparage landlords, right? We're not doing that. We're saying, you know, yeah, you know, we recognize that 98% of them are really excellent landlords, but the 2%, you know, whoever they are that may be doing the egregious things that I had to deal with, you know, are of concern. And for sure, I am not kidding. The international students often do not know about these rights. You know, they're not, because that's not what they're thinking about. They're thinking about how to survive, how to, you know, get used to this place and, you know, design. I had one last semester in my office who, yes, you know, who didn't know where to go, was complaining about their experience in this city. And the only reason why I found out was because I was concerned about the student. Okay, and sometimes they don't tell you. So, you know, I do think that it is important for us to you know, to think about those people. As, you know, Director Singer has also, you know, has also said that sometimes they don't know where to go. They don't know who to talk to. Do they need the information? I think so. Or, you know, is this a body that they can send a letter to and say, yeah, we're experiencing, here is the body at the city commission or at the city, is at city hall that we can send a letter to, especially if they don't know that they're supposed to call, you know, DPS, right? You know, and then so we become just simply a recommending body. I know that it is important work and it is necessary work, you know. So, you know, the question then is how we do it and, you know, and how we implement it and make it sustainable.
I think just double checking anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak on this topic, who would like to speak still. Talking on this, some of the key takeaways that I had, as we look to probably start wrapping up a little bit this evening. Education, education of community members and potential for making recommendations, but not looking to hand off actual power and everything other than a body that can make recommendations to the city commission. That sound kind of not seeing any general objections to recommendations. Collection of information was something that I thought would be something that we'd want to include there again, like, again, I think going back to some recommendations from Commissioner Perschbacher as we had started back when we had initiated this conversation of what this could look like if this was something that we wanted to pursue, was perhaps potentially an annual report. Question I did have that I just remembered, I do apologize. Majority of the complaints that we end up getting end up being contractual disputes, I believe was mentioned,
I
or
heard
not.
that, I heard that statement, and most of the complaints we get is where something is broke and it needs to be fixed. And it's like if you got a furnace problem, that's bad and it needs to be fixed. We make sure that it's fixed and it's fixed properly. City ordinance, if it's a life-threatening issue, heat, smoke alarms, egress. If it's a life safety issue, within 48 hours, they have to tell us this is the plan and it's implemented and this is when it's got to be a reasonable time. And the reason there's not a timetable in there is you just can't make all the stuff that you need appear. So it's left up to the individual inspector to get involved in that and make sure that that's happening. But most of our complaints are water problems, heat problems, trash problems, parking problems even once in a while, along those lines.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything about fungus and mold?
We do get mold complaints. That's one of them too.
Okay.
And, but a lot of times mold is because of water and not enough air movement. And that's most of the time a tenant's, or due to the tenant's activity, in the unit. And they didn't clean it up. And they may have lived into it for a year or close to a year. Now they're complaining they got mold into it. Okay, well, you've lived into it for a year. That's part of your responsibilities is to maintain that property. That's not the landlord's fault. Now, when they move in, they find mold and they call us. We get an increased call volume at the beginning of the school year, the end of the school year, and the end of the semesters. That's just, and sometimes people are trying to get out of their lease. Sometimes they're trying to hold on to their security deposit and the landlord is trying to take it. But sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. But again, we come in and this is your responsibilities. These are yours. Are you doing them? Are you doing them? And we usually resolve the problem.
Commissioner Alsager?
I can't think of any tickets that have been written to landlords because of complaints. We have had a couple of tickets issued to tenants, but it's usually because their failure to comply with living in an unsanitary home, clean it up and so forth.
My question is, it sounds like you already have a document that is given to renters.
We have one that's available for them. We've had one that we do hand out sometimes. And when we talk to them about things, we refer to them. When we're there doing and talking to them, doing our inspection, we refer to them. Well, if you're having a problem, this is where, go look at the tenant's rights. It's on the city's website. Or here, we have, each shift has a card with the shift email on it. We'll tell them, here, you email this and we'll make sure you get a copy of it. It's that same tenant's rights packet that you have in your packet tonight that we use and we kind of follow. Because when we get a question about something that's not our purview, we look to that and we tell them here, look at what it says in the tenant's rights. You have this right. This is what you need to do. And if you need an attorney or if you need legal advice, you'll have to contact.
Thank you, Chief Flopsy. Oh, Rollins, Commissioner Rollins.
Okay, so I believe someone mentioned having a neutral party to mediate or moderate over disputes. Why can't we have one of the public safety officers be a moderator? I mean, they know what each side is supposed to be doing.
Do we have any public body or commissions that currently have staff who would chair the meeting?
No, not chairing the meeting. We have city staff liaisons to different committees that provide info and kind of help. But no, they're all chaired.
I mean, a liaison?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean-
I think every committee that we have generally would want to assign at least a liaison to, because.
Could they also moderate the dispute?
Facilitate,
Yeah, or facilitate the. I mean, it's not like they're going to pass judgment, but they would know what both sides should or should not be doing.
responsibilities.
Yeah, the responsibility of it.
I mean, they would know what each side is responsible for.
Yeah, when I was talking,
It wouldn't be a conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to, basically the committee's there to resolve issues between tenant and landlord.
Yeah. So talking about it, especially because there's a lot of this comes my way earlier for going the most extreme of limiting potentially landlords on that. My interest, again, I think it was best explained, I think, by Commissioner Demiroff, in wanting to be conscious of the power dynamic that occurs there, that is inherent in a tenant-landlord relationship. That was my interest there.
But if the public safety person is moderating, where's the power dynamic at? Especially in negotiation or resolution of an issue.
Well, and then that comes into, I think that comes back to the question of what are we asking this commission to do? Like, are we asking this commission to review specific complaints that are being brought to the city, or are we looking for this body to be more of a policy, like advisory board that could draft documents to be given out to and educational materials to be provided?
But we don't want to reinvent the wheel either.
We already have the documents.
We already have the documents. So what is the purpose of the tenants right group, union, whatever it's supposed to be? I mean, why are we formulating this? I mean, is there really a need for this committee? Because we already have ordinances in place. We have the public safety officers to inspect. We already have the human rights committee at the county level. I mean, how much more do we need in order to resolve issues? I mean, we shouldn't be adding another level of bureaucracy to it. I mean, if we're asking for expedience, maybe find a way to streamline what we already have rather than add to it.
Commissioner Skaliski?
So looking back at the housing laws as a whole for the state of Michigan, there's not been any type of progressive legislation that's been written in the last several years. I think the biggest piece that was last written was there's no rent cap. So a landlord could raise the rent 30% at the renewal of a lease if they wanted to. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing, there's actually prohibits that a municipality from capping that. So we wouldn't even be able to change that if we wanted to, but a tenants' rights committee would be able to advise ways that we can look out for tenants. We can put in policies like the right to renew. We can look at ways to where like right to repair. And we could pick out these individual laws and try to push them individually as a city commission to look at housing laws and the way that we can look out for our residents. Like what was stated, we have 6,000 units roughly inside of Mount Pleasant. Population roughly 20,000 people. That's like a third of the people living here. That don't have a body that is looking out for their rights and ordinances and laws that will protect them and make sure that they have a roof over their head. Having like right now, there's no protection for tenants if they wanted to organize. So a landlord could just say, hey, I don't like what you're doing with your neighbors. I'm not going to renew your lease this year. And that is perfectly legal. It doesn't matter if they've been there for 15 years. They no longer have a place to stay. You know, there's things like that we can look out for our residents, and a committee would be able to outlast and have more insight on everything, that all the perspectives and all the angles that need to be taken into consideration.
But would this committee have any enforcement powers?
No.
No, it's a recommending
It's a
committee,
recommendation.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be again, general consensus as I'm hearing it, is the idea that this committee, again, works with staff, collects information, reviews information either from the state level as far as like new legislation or just things affecting tenancy within the city, and based off of that information, then makes recommendations from time to time on improvements that could be made to the city commission. And somewhat like, again, a body that's Commissioner Sklitsky, for example, has mentioned the right to renew. That there's a lot that goes along with that, of the right to renew. And putting that into an ordinance, that would be a pretty big change, like trying to create an ordinance around that, that'd be a big change. We could have over the next 4 weeks or in 4 meetings, the city commission could continue to discuss that, that as a policy point. Or we could create a commission that could have, create a separate commission that could have more in-depth dialogue about that topic, because their focus is on tenants, on like the experience of tenants. So again, it's not just about any single policy. It's about just, again, what is the experience of a tenant within the city of Mount Pleasant? And that's my thought process on it. Commissioner Demmer?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Like you need to have that voice, look at the ordinances, look at what can be improved in order to kind of take not the burden, but move it away to a more specific committee. And I think, and to me, it's about that policy, changing ordinances, giving that empowerment side to that group that can then come to us and say, this is what we found, this is what needs to change. We would like you to look at this, adopt this, change this. And I think, for me, that's where it is. It's not about disputes between landlords. It's about what policies we can enact using this committee as a tool to change what needs to be changed for renters.
A question that I think has come up because I've heard different proposals amongst the members of the commission to address this question, but again, going back to potential, like as reviewing ordinances or reviewing policies, the potential for conflict between individuals who are representing tenants and individuals who might be representing landlords on a potential commission. There's been several different proposals or ideas floated on ways to create equity within a potential commission, as far as like stakeholders to involve or people to bring in. I would put that as a question, like, to staff of, like, familiarity with the community. If we did move forward with this commission, who are some potential stakeholders we could engage as far as like the makeup of such a committee? If we did 7 members on a commission, if we're looking to try and create an effective voice, again, on the tenant experience within the city of Mount Pleasant and potential improvements that could be made. But also wanting to, again, engage all stakeholders, engage landlords. What kind of stakeholders could we bring in? As like, what would that makeup look like? Especially with staff being most hands-on this topic. I don't think any of us are actually landlords. So, that's a voice lacking in this. But with staff having more hands-on this everyday issue, I'd be interested to see what thoughts on a makeup for a potential commission might come from staff. again, a body that could make recommendations, potentially create an annual report of different average cost of rent potentially within the city, if we could like highlight that, or even highlight that we have very few disputes between like as for tenants within the city, highlighting the work of code enforcement. I think that would be something that could be accomplished there. Other members of the commission or things that would want to discuss as part of this conversation.
I'll chime in one more time. There was a lot of really good information that was provided by the city that was modeling off of ordinances Ann Arbor and Kalamazoo has. Like one of them was requiring landlords to submit a report on what they are charging for rent, the square footage, the amount of bedrooms, the amount of bathrooms. You know, that way tenants have the ability to compare what they're paying for rent with any given apartment. You know, that provides a level playing field when it comes to a tenant trying to find, well, where they're going to lay their head for the next year. You know, there are other things that are in those ordinances, like requirement to relocate upon eviction. You know, that is some extreme policy that probably doesn't have a place in Mount Pleasant. So that's why it would be negligent of us to just try to adopt something that another city has done because we have different problems. So that's why I think that it's very important that we form a committee that can look into these issues with the proper attention that they deserve, and make decisions that are going to benefit not just tenants, but make sure that landlords are not being negligent in their duties. Because I can promise you, when I helped clean out some of the homes in 2017 when we had floods, there was a lot of property that was left behind by some of the landlords. I was clearing out mattresses that were 10, 15 years old that were waterlogged, and they didn't belong to the renters at that point in time. The landlord didn't show up to remove that property. It was me. I did that, like, because it's up to us to look out for each other and for our neighbors and for our community. And this is one of the ways that we can do that.
Any other comments or items from the members of the commission before we look to adjourn this evening? Not seeing any? Manager Sense.
Just as a question to the commission with this, kind of as a charge for staff to come back with further information. We had talked about a priority of work sessions, and I just want to make sure my understanding would be to move through this topic before we go on to another topic. Am I correct in that assumption? So at the next city commission meeting, we'd bring this back for a further discussion at our next meeting, and we wouldn't move on to the next work session topic until this one is completed.
Could you remind me our next work session topic that we had scheduled?
We'll look that up. Give me one moment here. So actually, we do have space on the 3/9 meeting as I'm looking at the schedule, as there was a pushback for the closed session, which got pushed back to the 23rd. So we do have room on that one.
Gotcha. While we have,
Aren't we going to discuss the poverty level?
Yeah. Well, the poverty level, again, like if we were doing as new business.
Are we doing that as a new business and not?
I figured
It
new
was
business.
session?
Yeah, given
Yeah,
that,
no,
if we wanted to take action, we would probably want to do that on new business for the next agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's a proposal that is brought forward for the March 1st meeting on the poverty level, that's something that we can discuss and vote upon then. And then under new business, so that again, it will conclude debate on that topic for 2026 in that case. And then the work session, we could continue this conversation if we have the opening, let's plan on doing it for March 1st. Voters sent us here to do
March
some
9th.
work. March 9th?
March 9th.
The first meeting in March is what I have here. Yeah. So voters sent us here to do some work, and I appreciate staff's time. I appreciate the time of the members of the commission engaging in the conversation. All takes everyone to come to a good decision. With that, it's 9:45. There's no further business before us, and we'll stand adjourned.
And that's it.
Doug, can I ask you a question?